I'm bored and I have no idea what to make a tier list on, so fuck it, we're gonna world build Lost Raven. Yes, that's right. We are actually gonna world build in the 50-year gap, or 55, now that I've checked the wiki, we're gonna world build that before Nexus, because why not? First up, we have GC being annexed after the events of Silent Line. This is something that's never really explained in Nexus as to why it's the Arc instead of Cortex still being around, so to this I'm just going to make the stupid justification that perhaps after they were infiltrated by Ibis with Sarah, basically pretending to, be someone, the other corporations decided that Global Cortex was too much of a liability due to being something made during the controller era, since they were technically what's the originated from the first layered. Basically, everyone decided if there are, in fact, more layers, they could easily infiltrate Global Cortex because, well, if this one no one has ever heard of was able to do it, what's stopping the others from doing it? Since, for all we know, all the other controller-like AI probably run off of the same code. So this led to GC being annexed and all of the Ravens being put out of a job as the nest was disbanded forcefully. Now, because of this would lead to kind of a schism going on across all the Ravens because, well, now they've been put out of work entirely, and now they don't really have many options when it comes to work. They can either do as the Lynxes from Generation 4, where they can just partner up with a single company and just be like, their personal AC pilots, kind of like the Crest stables in Nexus, actually. Because we do know that Agraya makes some notes of the Ark supposedly not having pilots like the Raven anymore, which gives some idea that she could have been affiliated with the Ark before disbanding, just defecting to Crest completely. So, that's an idea. There are the Ravens who stayed independent, still going between job and job, but now they don't have a mediator working for them, at least not until Jacko forms the Ark. And then we have the false mercenaries. These are more or less just corporate hitmen in a fancier term, I guess. Basically, their whole job is to blend into other contracts and kind of, I don't know how to describe it. So I'm basically just gonna say like smurfing in a ranked lobby. Basically, they'll take on like jobs that ordain to their corporation specifically, boost those numbers up, make it seem like they're more effective. But if they ever get a job from a rival corporation, like say a mercenary or not mercenary, a employee under Mirage getting a job from Crest, then they go in and purposely sabotage that mission just to screw over Crest. Because we do know in Last Raven there are independent mercenaries even amongst Vertex and Alliance. There are some who make their own warlords, their own factions, and there are just some Ravens that legitimately don't partner up with anybody. So this could be a thing like these are, so basically, you have the standard Raven, you have the corporate hires, you have the ones who basically fake being independent but are actually working for someone. Because that was also another point in Nexus, was that working directly with a corporation amongst Ravens was a very big, like, disgrace. Because the whole thing is answering to one corporation specifically. It's kind of like going against the whole we answer only to ourselves. which is why Evangel was kicked out for accepting crest rewards, and why, after one of the council members in the Ark was found contacting Mirage, they just fucking replaced everybody. So that could be a decent plot point. Then we have where Mirage and Crest are in all of this. I'd like to imagine that because Mirage kind of foots all the bills whenever it comes to the Silent Line stuff near the end of the game, I'd like to imagine that will put them in kind of like a disadvantage finance-wise. Because compared to Crest, Mirage was kind of doing all the heavy lifting during the Silent Line, whereas Crest was kind of on the back burner instead of how it was the other way around in 3. So with that in mind, you could say like Mirage decided to go incognito for the time being, recoup their forces, their wealth, get all that sorted out before they came out of hiding again to, well, take back what they think is theirs. In this case being the Lectus Plains. Crest, on the other hand, has been preparing for such a occasion because, well, just because your rival's inert does not mean they're fully gone. So, there's that. Then we have Novice, or Navis. I generally have no idea how it's pronounced. Like Novice, Navis, Navis. Like I have no idea how it's pronounced. So I do know they aren't exactly relevant. In fact, I think they're just formed like a few months before Nexus because they find the pulverizer alloy accidentally. But yeah, we're just gonna say they formed like 20 years earlier. Namely, it's just like a small time company. We make general parts, we make ammo, we do all the stuff you Ravens need. You could even have them be like a little micro supplier for the Ark, since they provide all the repair services and whatnot. Basically, just like they're basically kind of like currently the Home Depot of Armored Core. That sounded way more interesting in my head, but because I said it out loud now, it just sounds lame. But whatever, we're rolling with it. And time for the fun stuff. Kisaragi basically becoming Murakumo 2.0. This is mainly to explain how some ravens have OP intensify like abilities despite, OPI not being in Nexus or Last Raven. So justification I'm coming up with is that since we know Kisaragi has been dabbling in genetic modification considering the Amida program, I'd like to imagine that they offer ravens a choice after OP Intensify was outlawed after the Silent Line conflict, which, as we all know, in IRL was just because the comp players kept complaining about it, even though it's an optional part. They all kept complaining about it, so it was removed for Nexus and LR. So we just say it was like mutually agreed by whatever arena services still went around, maybe like the guys behind Formula Front. Basically, it's just say like they decide to outlaw OP Intensify, which led to Kisaragi providing a new unorthodox method for being able to give your AC a bit more bang for its buck without having to install any illegal chipsets. Which, in this case, would be wiring parts of your brain to the AC to handle some of the mechanical load. Nope, this is not going to be the same as like full-on, full body modification that Murakuma was doing with Human Plus. This is going to be kind of just like you get like a little transceiver in your head that maybe gives you like a mild twinge of pain, but hey, you can walk around while using cannons now, so, you know, that's a decent trade-off. And plus, Yeah, yes, I know it's a translation error, but I mean, it would also explain why Genobi kind of sounds like a uh, fucking cyborg in the American port. Yes, I know in the original Japanese translation for the game, he sounds different. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about the Japanese version of Nexus, but I'm gonna go with the cyborg idea that the American version gave him, because frankly, I just think it's a much cooler angle. Since oh no, Nexus already just feels underwhelming with like how much wasted potential there were. Like one of the Ravens you fight is a literal death row inmate. Like I personally think this is definitely an aspect I could have like looked into some more. So hey, I'm gonna look into it more with this. Basically, Kisaragi would just go up to like any bum, run of the mill ravens who are just kind of just wasting away without anything to do, and just like, hey kid, you want a free upgrade? The catch? Just a few unregistered tests, but you'll be able to basically use OP Intensify without needing OP Intensify. Sounds like a great deal. So yeah, basically it's just kind of like we offer illegal steroids for a season, crap like that. Of course, we are going to involve human kidnapping because this is Kisaragi. Almost everything they do is illegitimate. So, we can't have them acting like a fucking soup kitchen. Might be a minor plot point going on, or maybe I'll just have everyone kind of ignore it since we all know in the end nothing actually happens to Kisaragi. They always get away scot-free across the games. Maybe I'll have like one guy maybe like blow up place where it's or like the surgeries happen and like just let that be it. And I don't know, maybe it'll just be like a list of ravens that are just, being augmented in the background or like already done. Like, congratulations, you've stopped them from making more, but what about the ones that are already, up and running? Maybe I'll just say like 50 to account for the 20-year gap between when Lost Raven takes place and Nexus. I don't know, I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. I am currently playing Destiny right now, so, you know, don't really have much critical thinking ability. I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of missed potential considering we have a literal 55 years of empty space with nothing to show for it. So we're gonna have something to show for it. Plus, I mean, come on, it's basic world building. You got there is a world, but it's so unexplored even by FromSoft standards that I don't know. I'd like to do something with it. Now I gotta go spot my brother while he climbs on the roof.